What's up?
Welcome, Power Hour, everybody. Quinn, Coach Seidel, Scotty, and Super Dave. And apparently I'm going to be the host today. My intros are the best, by the way, so if you don't like it, deal with it. Welcome to the Power Hour. And it is, what day is it? I've had a day so far. Wednesday edition. And today is National Beer Day. So what's everybody's favorite beer, Quinn?
Mountain Dew.
Yep, I kind of saw that one coming. I've been on the road here for the last couple of weeks here with Quinn, and we'll stop into a restaurant, and I'll get a nice beverage, usually the same thing, and Quinn goes, I'll take a Mountain Dew. So
that's all it is.
Thanks for joining in today for the National Beer Day today, Quinn. Coach Seidel, what you drinking? What you like? What kind of beer you like?
Yeah, so I'm usually a Busch Light guy, just traditionally, all the time Busch Light guy. But today for the show, I've decided to go with a platform. It's the New Cleveland Pilsner.
I have not had that. Obviously, if it's new, haven't experienced it. What would you scale it? Good? Like it?
It's
pass off to somebody else?
Right on the can here. It says it's crisp, easy, and refreshing, and I would agree with those three terms for it.
Let's see what. Yeah, mine does not say that, but it is very good. Scotty, Super Dave, what do you like? Hey, DJ.
I'm a guy, I like me some craft beer, but I like just the old classics more. My two favorites, my two go-tos are the High Life, Miller High Life, and also Pabst Blue Ribbon. Those are my two go-tos.
A lot of old school in that.
I'm going with the Miller High Life as well. I'm firmly in the Mountain Dew camp as well, though. But in my beer days, it was Miller High Life 30 packs.
I can tell you.
Let's go.
I appreciate a good Bud Light. When I coach baseball with a certain fella, I'm not going to mention him. It's usually a lot of Miller Lights going around, but I'll tell you, to be honest with you, I can't pass up a beer. If there's a beer in front of me, I'll more than likely at some point of the night drink it. So, and we all know what Jeff Bezos like. He's a Busch Light. He had these weird, funky beers names though. I've never even heard of some of the stuff that he brought over one day. He kept calling the high noons high moons. So that's a Jeff Bezos thing. So. And he had like these weird. It's an American beer. It's made in America, somewhere in the hills of West Virginia. And he lost me at that point. And I said, you know what? More power, more tower. No, that's not accurate at all. I am not a fan of White Claws. I don't. I understand why people drink them, and that's cool. But I don't. Again, if it's in front of me, I'll drink it. But it's not my go-to.
I've got to ask. Has anybody other than me tried the Natter Day pineapple yet?
No. I have had the original Natter Days.
The pink lemonade ones. They came out. Now they came out with a pineapple lemonade one, and it's actually pretty legit.
Is it better than the original, the OG?
I can't drink as many of them. They're a little sweeter than the OG.
Yeah, see, anything that's sweet, I'm not a fan of sweetness when it comes to anything related to drinking.
Michael Page, I will die on this hill.
I can see Michael Page. He's a Formula One guy. He's probably out there drinking like Steel Reserve somewhere. So we'll let him have his
90 gasoline, pure 90 gasoline.
Just insane. So, well, that's National Beer Day, and let's move on. What are we moving on to? We moving on to our game, Quinn?
Sure.
That we did last night. All right, that's what we'll do. So last night, Quinn and I did a softball game, Springfield Lady Tigers and the Mineral Ridge Lady Rams, and it was a doozy. It really was. Springfield came out, first 5 innings, it was 7-0. We were thinking, hey, we were heading home early because all the momentum in the world Springfield had in it. And we heard it the last night's game. Anthony kind of let us know that, hey, this game went 10-7, and it kind of went back and forth a little bit. and then Springfield was able to score 3 in the 7th inning to kind of take the win. So rewind to yesterday, Springfield's up 7-0, and all of a sudden they threw a new pitcher in. Haley Taylor came in and she shut the door and slammed it hard. Like you were upset at your parents as a child slamming that door. And she came in and gave up 1 hit for the rest of the way out for 5th, 6th, and 7th and 8th innings. And this game went into the extra innings. All of a sudden, you just start to see that momentum train, just a bloop here, an error here. I talked about stopping the bleeding when Springfield was trying to attempt to throw out the runners at home, and they had no chance. And all of a sudden, you see that first base runner trickle down to the scoring position, and then another bloop, and then walk, and then error, and then next thing you know, it's 7-7 going into the 7th, and nothing happened there. So we played extras, and then oh boy, Boyer came up to play. Courtney Boyer for the Lady Rams, and with 2 girls on, and she hit a missile that hasn't landed yet, about 270 feet, and it was just incredible. It was just an incredible game on both sides. Both teams fought hard, and the Lady Rams just came back from a 7-0 deficit to win that game. So that being said, and they were our Bear Brothers player of the game. Quinn, you got anything to note on that game?
No. It was like
gonna be
yesterday.
just-
You said everything,
just-
and I'm just sitting there like an idiot.
Just like yesterday. So
You said it all.
So
you never
in
give me anything
saying-
to say.
So in saying that, what is the largest comeback that you've been a part of or been in attendance for?
Me? 3-1.
Yeah.
Cavs. Game over.
But you weren't there,
Can't
though,
argue
so
that
that
one.
doesn't even
3-1.
that you
Philly,
weren't even
3-1.
you weren't even there. How
I
about
was there. I went
in
to every final
attendance?
game that year. I was there.
Okay.
In attendance.
Okay. Coach Seidel.
Yeah, when I was just a pup playing junior high football for the Trojans, we were down. I was a 7th grader, and we were down like 32-7 to Columbiana at Columbiana back in the day. And we came back and won that game. I think it was 38-32 or something like that. That was the biggest one I've been a part of.
Wow. Scotty?
I would say the biggest comeback I witnessed as a fan was when the Indians were down in the playoffs. They were down, I believe it was 6-1 to the Yankees in the playoffs. And then Francisco Lindor hit the grand slam. And then Jay Bruce ended up tying the game with the solo homer, I believe, in the 8th inning. And then Jan Gomes with the walk-off winner, like in the 12th or 13th. So I haven't seen like an enormous comeback live as a fan, but that was a pretty big one, considering the Indians were down about 5-6 runs. So that would be mine, the playoff game from 2017.
You brought the Indians up. Do you remember the Indians game where they went to 19 runs with the Mariners? I think they were down like 7 or 8. Is that the one you're going to talk about? Go ahead.
I was at a Cavs Sun game the first time LeBron was with Cleveland, and they were down 25 Cavs, and everyone was leaving, and the Cavs came back. Ilgauskas hit a shot that they wanted overtime. That was amazing. Cavs Sun.
Yeah, there's something special about being a part of it, at least as a fan, and you go to these sporting events, and as a Browns fan, we've seen a whole bunch of blowouts, 30-point losses, and that middle of that fourth quarter, you start to see everybody head to the exits, and it's something pretty neat when they come back and win those type of games where everybody's starting to leave, and you're a dedicated fan, a loyal fan, and you're sitting around and boom, next thing you know, they're back in it, and then they're winning the game. So pretty sweet there. So I've been gone for a little bit of time, and I really wanted to hit up the Deshaun Watson issue for a minute because I was dead wrong about this guy. I mean, I know some pretty maybe not major pro players, but I have some friends and friends of friends who play professional anything, and the first thing that came out is you got to wait for these facts about Deshaun Watson coming out, and you don't want to like just assume guilt on anybody. I mean, we live in America, so you're innocent until proven guilty, and there's no as of right now, there's no court date for any of these accusations that are happening. But my first thought process was when he wanted out of Houston, I really felt as an organization they tried to bury him, and something like this happened. But now it's up to 23 women who have accusations against Deshaun Watson. I don't think he's going to play this year. I think and not only that, he might be done as a professional athlete. I mean, you hear about athletes all the time, and they pay off things, and there's back doors to situations, and a lot of times with these athletes, the lifestyle that they live creates some of these issues of being out in clubs and strip clubs and parties and whatnot and private events where you're around so many different types of people that things happen. Things are said. You're obviously alcohol. A lot of times are involved in some of these cases, but I mean, I was dead wrong about Deshaun Watson. Talent-wise, he's fantastic, but you're starting to see now. If this was like 3-4 women, maybe you can make the argument that, hey, this might be a money grab, as some of the athletes will talk about. The professional. None of us will have those issues, but we don't have that type of money to be thrown around and paying people off like some of these athletes do, or that money grab situation. So what do you think, Quinn? I mean, he's done. Never going to see Deshaun Watson again after this year, or you think somehow talent prevails and he'll find a way back on the football field?
I mean, a couple of things that come to mind. First of all, I want to keep this comment up as long as I possibly can, because it's not every day that I get to see you say you were wrong. But no, a couple things come to mind. I mean, I think he's done personally. I mean, we've seen it where people have come back from things like that. Like, I mean, Michael Vick came back from all of his troubles and all that stuff and still played and all that. But I mean, that was a completely different.
I mean, Ray
situation.
Lewis was accused of killing a guy.
I mean, the Bengals have countless people that have done God knows what and still played. So, I mean, we've seen a lot of stuff, but I mean, in the current times, I mean, we've never seen this. And I mean, I think he's done. If it's all true. I mean, you got to prove that it's all true, basically. And if it comes out,
we live in this world of public opinion, though. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, this isn't 25 years ago. There wasn't Twitter, there wasn't Facebook, there wasn't these that had video on your phone at all times. So, I mean, that's why you don't hear a lot of this stuff as much. But it's crazy to think about. Scotty and Super Dave, Deshaun Watson done. I know you probably wouldn't take him now. I would have took him about 6 weeks ago over Baker all day and every day. But now I think I'm going to be just fine with Baker over Deshaun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just as far as from a talent perspective, even though I don't think like Deshaun Watson, I thought he wasn't as maybe a generational talent as some people thought. I thought he was really good. Don't get me wrong, I take him over Baker from a talent perspective, but as you said now, Billy Mack, as a Browns fan, you're really glad that the Browns didn't touch Deshaun Watson and have Baker. And I just don't know. I mean, guys like this, he's made some money now. He was a high draft pick. I mean, guys like this have a lot of power, and we've seen settlements and, women paid off before in circumstances like this where there's accusations made of, sexual harassment and going too far, rape, things like that. But with so many women coming forward now and saying he was, he did things that were inappropriate, I just think it's going to be incredibly hard for him to have a career. like you said, Billy Mack, if it was 3 or 4, like you could say, okay, we don't know, maybe this is a money grab, but I think there's a pattern here. Once you get up in the double digits and now it's above 20, it just doesn't look good for Deshaun Watson. I mean, America, our country's great. We're all about second chances in this country, and that's what I love about America, because everybody makes mistakes. I made so many in my short, 32 years on the planet. I made a ton of mistakes, but I'm also not in the spotlight like Deshaun Watson has been. So I think if somebody put a gun to my head and said, give me an answer, I would say Watson's career is over.
2011, he might have made it, but 2021, I don't know. 23 women is a pretty high number. And like
Right.
He goes to 23 different physical therapists.
I mean, I think
23
Super Dave. I
opinions,
think you're.
that's
Well, that's that magic number. 23 is got to be that goat number that you just. That's the one. 20. So, hopefully he figures it out, and hopefully these women can be, have their day in court. As they should. So. We'll see. We'll see about that. Coach, what do you think?
Yeah, so first of all, we've had a beer change. I've now gone to the Brewdog Elvis juice. Pretty decent. A little bit too much grapefruit for my liking, but not bad. But on Deshaun Watson, I'm with you, Billy. I was right away originally thinking, this was the organization trying to drive his value down so that it just didn't make sense for him to leave. There's all kinds of problems in that Houston organization to begin with. And, if they lose a franchise quarterback, it'd be really bad for them. But the more that we start to hear, I'm with Super Dave, like, who has 23 different massage therapists? And as the number just continued to grow and kept going up, it was like, the old, if there's smoke, there's got to be fire somewhere. And you start to scratch your head and wonder, okay, what exactly is going on here? And, I think that things like, Paul Pierce is going live on Instagram. It sheds a little bit more light on the culture that's out there for some of these professional athletes. And, that feeling of invincibility that they can get away with anything that they want because they can just throw money at the problem and make it go away.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head when you talk about the culture. A lot of these, athletes today grew up in that MTV era where, you've seen the videos and you see the spinners on the wheels and you see the big cars and the strip clubs and the throwing the money everywhere and, and the songs Make It Rain and you're doing all these things. So you want to experience that. You have the money at this point to experience some of those MTV moments, and some of them are going about it the wrong way, and it's also a different time than when at least some of those things out. And we're finding out now that that's a little bit more degrading to a lot of different cultures and a lot of different genders and people, and it's not acceptable anymore. It's just not. I mean, a lot of things we do today, were acceptable or weren't acceptable back in the 60s and 50s. I mean, we progress as not only just as a community, but as a country as well. So, let's put a lid on the Deshaun Watson case, and let's talk more about some local sports here. Gotten some, Coach Seidel, you did a game the other day. Talk to us a little bit about that and how and you're broadcasting, man, for the Ysn Network. I mean, you're part of the squad officially, really, and you're out here doing baseball games. I mean, it's got to be a blast going out there doing some of these things.
Yeah, it really is. And, I consider myself extremely lucky to get an opportunity to go out and see some of these teams. It kicked off with DJ and I were out in Louisville to see, a little bit of that Constitution tournament that they had. And we saw a really good, really balanced Louisville team take on a really solid Cloverleaf team and battle to a one-run game in extra innings there. And then The next stop for me was out to West Branch and got a chance to see the Warriors, who are quickly proving themselves to be one of the tougher teams in that EBC. And then this week getting an opportunity to go over and see Salem take on a really solid Crestview team in what turned out to be a real battle. 6-3 game out there. Saw Carter Blakeman for Crestview. Just an unbelievable player and had an unbelievable day at the plate. 3 for 4, 2 home runs, one that probably hasn't landed yet. 3 RBI on that day. But then to find out this morning when I woke up that Salem team had come up here to Alliance yesterday and taken on the conference's best pitcher in Gavin Bruni, and battled to a scoreless or a 1-run deficit at the end of his 5 innings and his 75-80 pitch count that he's on, and then come back and win the 22-1. I know they've got another go around with Alliance today at Salem. I'll be interested to see how that one turns out, but it's looking like the EBC is probably going to come down to that Salem-West Branch matchup this year, and that could be really exciting baseball. 2 teams that traditionally don't really like each other, not a whole lot of love lost between the 2 communities, but always, the football game was good. The basketball games were both good. The girls' basketball games were good this year, so looking for a repeat performance in baseball for the shot at another league crown for one of those 2 teams.
I no doubt about that. I've went through battles with West Branch being at Ursuline, and they're a well-coached team. Organizationally, they're very well from top to bottom, and they had a coaching change not too long ago. I want to say four years ago, somewhere in that ballpark, and he just picked up right where they left off. And they got some good players over there. They all do their job. They don't have a quote-unquote superstar like Alliance does. Alliance has a phenom, a left-handed pitcher throwing about 91 to 94. He's committing to Ohio State, and they're talking about him being in the first round, in that first 25 picks. So who knows where that might be, and that would be great for the area of a local kid from around the area, and he's going to get drafted. That's impressive, straight out of high school, mind you. So might be the first one since maybe LeBron James from out of high school. So it could very well be. So, hopefully he does well, and we hope he continues his path. And Scotty and Super Dave, I know you haven't done any baseball games this year, but you checking out the network? And if you are, what are you really looking for if you want to go watch some baseball and softball on our network?
I'm interested in what I have checked out so far, and we talked about it. I think it was last week's show, but just Springfield. You mentioned the tough loss they had. I think it was last night in the game you guys covered, but they've just built such a solid program, and there's many great pitchers, and I never thought I'd say this as a Lowville graduate, because they were our big rivals when I was going to school. It was big time, but I've really grown to have a lot of just admiration for the Springfield program. So they've been the team I've been checking out the most on Ysn, the network, and I'm excited to check out some more of what they have to offer. Poland's also another team that I always have my eye on too. I know a lot of family from Poland, and they talk about the talent that comes through there every year, and talent that sports programs have. So I always have my eye on the Bulldogs too. So
Awesome. Just a quick scheduling change. Speaking of the Bulldogs, they just picked up another game today at Ysn Park, Field 2 at 5 o'clock against the Ysn Irish. And this is a Coach Weimer move all day. He always prepared for the weather. You have a beautiful place like Ysn Park that's home field to the Irish. And he looked ahead and goes, rain, chance of rain. We're going to go play today because it's 80 degrees and the sun's playing. So we'll figure out the back end of that schedule if we have to cancel a game because we play too many. I mean, nobody does it better than Coach Weimer. Every year in, year out, you're allowed 27 games. He will make damn sure his kids will play 27 games, and I can't say the same about a lot of schools, and that's for whatever reason, field issues, busing. I mean, there's a ton of issues. Coach Weimer seems to find a way with those obstacles to make sure he gets his kids on the field and play the maximum game.
Hey,
Go ahead, Coach.
Real quick shout out, Billy. Coach Ray's in the comments down there, and just the job that he's doing bringing back that East program after being gone for a few years. I'm really impressed with what I've seen so far out of them. A couple big wins last night with, some pretty important alumni in the house.
Yeah, so you basically took my shine from me. I was getting ready to mention that, Coach Seidel, as I got a chance to talk to Jason with our Headed Home series, and he was excited. And he said, hey, we're going to go out and compete, and we're not going to run from anybody. And Quinn, I could be wrong here, but he's got 5 wins, 5-0? Or 5-1, something like that.
I think 4.
I know they
4.
They
4-1, I believe.
Okay, so 4-1 in a program again, like you said, Coach, wasn't really around. Kind of got started up. Not to mention they didn't have anybody in school until like a week ago.
Right.
And you're out here winning baseball games. That's tremendous job. Maybe he's a future whatever our coach is. Not whatever. I should know this, but our coach of the year type.
Coach of the year.
It should be a nomination at least early. Well, if this was a certain conference, maybe it would be like the first quarter coach of the year. We can throw a little dig in there. So, well, Quinn, let's take a break real quick. Let's regroup here.
Hey, anything
pay some bills.
You, Billy. Anything for you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Hello, I'm Greg Burbick with G. Burbick Farms. For the last 100 years, my family has farmed in Columbiana and Mahoning counties. I began raising cattle in 1996 with the goal of providing a better product for you and your family on the dinner table. Our grass-fed and grain-supplemented Black Angus beef are raised with no hormones, steroids, or antibiotics. We're known for our hometown-friendly service and incredible tasting products. We're locally owned and have customers across the tri-state area. Our products go from our farm to your family. Stop by our farm on New Buffalo Road or visit us on the web at gburbickfarms.com. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. G. Burbick Farms. It just tastes better.
Hi, this is Tommy Clem, owner of WRS Insurance Solutions.
WRS Insurance Solutions is a local independent agency that specializes in life, Medicare, long-term care, and disability products. Call us at 330-953-3722 or visit us at wrsinsuranceSolutions.com to learn more.
Good luck to all the student athletes in the Valley.
Right now is a great time to get more for your trade-in at Tri-State Ford and drive home in a new or pre-owned vehicle. Choose from our great selection of new Ford models or pre-owned vehicles. Plus, get the Tri-State Ford Advantage, including a 10-year, 200,000-mile warranty and more. At Tri-State Ford, we'll pay you top dollar for your trade, but you don't have to purchase one of ours to sell us yours.
Customer focused, community driven. Tri-State Ford East Liverpool or visit tristateford.net.
Welcome back to the Power Hour here live on ysnlive.com. And I kind of want to talk a little bit about softball because for whatever reason, some of these schools not really getting the love that that they deserve. And Quinn, so far, let's talk a little bit about maybe some surprising teams in the area that maybe that are going under the radar. I mean, we have a couple perfect games, some no-nos, some one-hitters, a whole bunch of strikeouts. It seems I've been saying it. I know you've been with me saying it. Is I think that the talent for their ladies this year supersedes anything that's going on around here right now. So, Quinn, who do you think maybe needs a little love today on National Beer Day? By the way,
that's tough. I mean, there's a lot of good talent. I mean, we've gotten to see 3 or 4 teams already, Billy. Just the 2 of us doing some games out there. I mean, I don't know if it's a surprise, but South Range. I mean, they look tough. I was impressed last night with Mineral Ridge and Springfield. I was impressed with both of them. And I was able to talk to Coach Chrisman a little bit on my way into Lisbon today, and he's having a good year so far with the girls out here, and they get a big one tonight. They get to take on Ursuline up at YSU, so I'm excited to see where Coach Chrisman and the Lady Blue Devils are after tonight. I mean, he was talking about it 2 years ago. They went in and beat up on Mooney a little bit. So I mean, it's one of those things. I'm excited to see how the Lady Blue Devils do.
And Scotty and Super Dave, who maybe some under the radar or just any softball team that needs maybe some love here going into this week or at least for today, or maybe somebody you're maybe looking forward to see this week.
I would say I'm looking forward to mostly I would say the East. We've had Jason Ray comment on the show already today, but just the East program and what they have to offer, they're a team. I think what he's done, and Coach Seidel, he alluded to this a few minutes ago, but what he's done with our program, I mean, they're a team I think that could definitely be a dark horse and a team that I have my eye on for sure. They come to mind immediately.
No doubt there. And Super Dave, any softball teams or even baseball teams for that matter that you're
I'm gonna a crash course on local sport, baseball and softball. Ursuline, right? They're looking tough.
They are tough. They are tough.
As a Mooney kid, it pains me, but you'll notice if you notice my body of work. I don't need a lot of touches here on the show to contribute. I let the game come.
I understand. And Coach Seidel, what about you? You got some softball love out there for anybody, or some of the games maybe that you've seen so far this year?
Unfortunately for my hometown team, the Trojans, they got no hit the other night by, I believe,
perfect game.
Oh, was it a perfect? I didn't see the final box score on it, but was that Bree Callow, I believe, for McDonald?
McDonald, yeah.
Yeah, so and from all accounts, she's off to a hot start to her season pitching this year. I'm interested to see how they close out. I know they've got a couple of big contests coming up with Western Reserve, who's always solid on the softball diamond. And then I'm really looking forward to finally getting an opportunity to get over to Louisville and see the still defending state champions, since there was no season last year. From all accounts, Louisville's off to a big year, getting a hot start here again. I know they had some early success, and I can't wait to get an opportunity to just see them live.
I think for me, I want to give out some shout outs to some of these, the inner city, programs like, you got East and you got Cheney. They're just having a rough time kind of getting some of these girls to the table because, again, some of those schools you're looking at, for the East and Cheney are just coming back to school. So just having an opportunity to be in classrooms and as a recruiter in your own school, recruiting for football players, the best time to get some of these kids is while they're in class. And hey, let me talk to you for a minute. Or, hey, at the lunchroom, or hey, at the at study hall, or hey, in this class. And some of these teachers who are coaches, that's your best opportunity. And these inner city schools, Cheney and East, they didn't really get a good chance to have that opportunity to see some of these kids. And they got two good coaches there, Cheney and East, and Cheney. The program just came back, and she was a part of the team, the last team that was there before they shut down the school. And at East, you got a South Range graduate who played college softball, and she's coming over there to build that program up. And it looks like she's off to a pretty good start just getting the kids out there. We saw like 13 or 14 girls. So big shout out to them. And we hope they have a great year. And we'll be, and hopefully we're going to get out there to do at least a couple of their games this year. So, hopefully that gets going here pretty soon.
I think you made a really good point there, Billy, about, some of the schools just finally getting back into their buildings. And, it's so strange for the winter and spring coaches sometimes because they're so used to kind of having that full year to be able to have the kids in the building and talk to them. And so it's been interesting for me as a fall coach who usually is, hunting down kids in the off season when school's out and talking to some of these coaches and telling them, like, hey, here's how we do it when they're not in school to try and find them and locate them and get a hold of them, and just kind of passing on some of that knowledge. So it's a real interesting switch for some of these coaches to have to not have their own hallways to recruit like they usually would.
I mean, excellent point. I mean, it's so much easier when you're in school and you get a chance to sit down and introduce yourself and make those kids feel comfortable and, basically become maybe a mentor or some sort of friend. But you can almost accomplish anything with two people in the room. That old saying there is you get two people in a room and you can conquer the world. It's hard to kind of do it from a phone. You can't really do it from a phone. So no love for Fitch, who has Penn State. Listen, we know Fitch. We got tons of love for Fitch as she pitched a no-hitter I want to say her first game out this year, and she did a fantastic job and just run Louisville last night 10-0. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. You're talking about the state champs right now.
And here's the interesting thing, and if we ever don't mention somebody, it's not that we're slighting that team or that player. It's just that we've got such a depth right now of talent for the spring sports that, we could spend 3 days worth of shows talking about all the talent that's in the YSN area right now, and it still wouldn't be enough time.
Right. And I mean, we also have other shows like Running Point and hopefully coming soon is our Headed Home series show that we will dive into just baseball, softball. And of course, Anthony does softball and he has his softball blog. And Quinn, it's called
Hot Corner, I think, something like that.
Hot Corner, and he breaks down a lot of the he only does softball, so there's a lot of love being thrown around by Anthony. Anthony goes into in-depth research, talking to coaches, players, the whole 9 yards, and he does a fabulous job for us, and it has been doing so. I think he aired that last year, so that should be out at least. I'm pretty sure it's the Hot Corner.
I don't know the name of it. I'm just swept away by the content that he provides. Like, the name at that point is secondary to what he does with the interviews and all the people that he brings in.
Yeah, and even with a lot of the Head of Home stuff that we've been doing with boys and the girls, softball, baseball, and we bounced some things off of Anthony to kind of at least correspond with him with, hey, what are you doing? We don't want to step on your toes when you're doing this and vice versa. So everybody works well together here at YSN.
I will say, I don't think that there is anybody in the area with their finger on the pulse of women's sports and girls' sports like Anthony. We're truly incredibly blessed to have him and have his services with us because he's just, on the ball. I mean, he's such a wealth of knowledge about softball and volleyball and even girls basketball all the time. We all kind of rely on him to help bring us up to speed on some of that stuff.
No doubt here. Let's transition here. Let's go talk about some live games that we're going to have on the network tonight. DJ Oakley, CEO El Presidente, is back in Pennsylvania, the Keystone State, and he's going to be doing the Mohawk versus Hopo. I believe that's him. I could be wrong, but that's what Quinn told me.
That's him.
So we also have on the network tonight Austin Town Fish and Notre Dame Cathedral Latin. They are going to first pitch looks like it's going to be at 4:30. Newton Falls versus Firestone is at Canfield. That game starts at 4:30. 5 o'clock starts here is East Liverpool versus Harrison. Harlan Christian versus Crestview. That should be a pretty good one there. Newton Falls versus La Brea at Scene Park. That's on field 1. Salem versus Alliance. Now, this is a game that I was almost going to do last about 11 o'clock. I was gonna pick this game, but with some work schedule and some other things that are happening, it was tough for me to get to. I'm a little bit jealous. I would love to see a Rhodes and a lefty that's going to Ohio State go toe to toe here today, and I'm not sure if that's happening.
They actually went against each other yesterday.
So they went against each other yesterday. How did that turn out?
So it was 2-1 in favor of the Quakers. And
I'll tell you right now, that is if you were in attendance for that game, you better been, wow, this is amazing. Because
friends of mine that were at that game and family members of mine that were at that game told me that there were no less than 15 radar guns on the home plate area during that game. Just pro scouts in the area. Yeah.
I mean, we have some really good we have about 3 regional scouts that are in the area. And then because the draft is coming, you might have a not necessarily a regional scout. You might have the head scout coming down. That's kind of how that works. Scouting is a whole different world. And you get friends of friends who come and say, hey, I can't make it. So boom, there's a radar gun. It's pretty neat. And we do a lot of things at Scene Park where we hold tournaments and games and whatnot and showcase games where there's 50, 40 scouts behind home plate. And I'm telling you right now, there's nothing cooler than your 17, 18-year-old kid out there on the mound, and there's just 100 scouts somewhere floating around in the area. It's pretty cool. It's pretty impressive.
And honestly, Billy, the big thing in that is not only the opportunity for the young man who's potentially going to be drafted in the first round, but the opportunity for all the other kids on the field to maybe say, hey, wait a minute, you should know my name too. And, I think about like Rhodes, who's heading off to YSU next year to pitch, and some of those Salem kids that are saying, hey, wait a minute, I can really play ball too.
Yeah, this is the thing about baseball that might be different than any other sport, and softball as well, it falls in the same category, is you never know who's watching. Okay. A lot of times we tell some of our kids that come and play for us with the Astros is, yes, we have this guy who plays for Ohio State. So Ohio State's going to come. You know what that means for you? That means Ohio State's in the crowd for you. So if you go out and shine, they're going to call somebody, or they're going to say, hey, we know this kid's pretty good, but hey, little Johnny's pretty good too, and we should take a look at him. Worst case scenario is these coaches are friends with all of each other. Okay, at the college level, the professional level. So the network is so big. So they'll call so-and-so. They know, like, hey, I'm looking for a middle infielder, and say, hey, I seen this middle infielder. We can't take him because we're out of scholarships, or we're out of player, or we're out of numbers for roster spots, but might be a good one for you to get. And that's how you get noticed. It's not always just about, I have to go play in this showcase. I have to go play here. Sometimes it's good to play with good talent because they're going to come see him at least 1 or 2 times that year.
Yeah, and truthfully, it's that way in all the sports. It's not unique to baseball in that sense because, I remember an example of 2 years ago, when we were really just starting to get our football program back rolling. And, we walk out for the 3rd game of the season, and Larry Karras is sitting in the stands watching the game. My kids right away are going, holy cow, like Mount Union's here, and who are they here to watch? I don't care. It's my turn to get noticed.
Right on about that. So another game here on the network tonight is Ursuline versus Lisbon. We talked about that a little bit ago. I believe you said Anthony is going to cover that one, correct?
Yes.
Definitely, because it's softball. And there's only one softball game on the network right now. Ursuline Poland just picked up. That's going to be on field 2 at 5 o'clock. And West Branch versus St. Thomas Aquinas. And I said it earlier about now, I think it's no secret that I am a fan of Coach Weimer and the Ursuline Irish and the Ursuline Irish in general. I've been there for a couple of years, and they got a pretty good program. They got a pretty good player. That's a junior there, Brady Shannon, going to UCF. So, and Poland's been pretty dominant in the last 7 or 8 years. Guys like the O'Shaughnessy brothers playing there, and now they're both at YSU. So 2 big programs going head-on-head there tonight. The thing about West Branch that gets me is how they're for a semi-small community or the community that you'd never heard of or don't hear much from, is they just reload every year in every sport. Boys, girls, doesn't matter. They have great years. They go to, with like the girls go far 2 years ago, and then they go pretty far this year. It just seems that no matter what they're doing, they just reload. And the coaches stay the same. They're consistent for the most part. And usually if a coach leaves, it's an understudy that comes through and takes over the job. So there's just something, we talked about Springfield and how their culture is different. You can also say the same thing about West Branch, and they just seem to reload. I'm sure Michael Page is having a field day right now hearing this, but just something that's going on over there that not a lot of schools have or are trying to maybe duplicate that process that they have going on. So silence. All right, let's move on. What are we moving on to? Let's move on to baseball, because there was a nice little article today at ESPN, Major League Baseball, talking about how the culture of baseball has changed. And let me pull this up. And not only has it changed, these players are leading the way. And I know Tatis Jr. is one of them. And another one of them is Francisco Lindor and Bryce Harper and Alcune Jr. And there's one more I don't recognize. I don't know who that is. That must be a misprint. So, Scotty, of all these players, man, who's the leader of the pack out here that seems to be that's going to take Major League Baseball to that next level that is going to make it back in that conversation of being that one or number two sport in this country? Right now, I think you can argue it's probably 3 or maybe 2, but probably more along the lines of 2. Which athlete of these guys do you think which athlete do you think is going to take Major League Baseball to the new heights?
Yeah, I think it's, and I know your kind of infatuation with the Padres, Philly Mac.
Me, little on me.
Yeah, I think, and I'm disappointed that I saw he got hurt last night or the night before, but I did read he won't need surgery, which is really good. But I think Fernando Tatis Jr. Everybody knows who's watched them last year and watched the Padres, and I know you did, Billy Mack. He just has unbelievable potential. So I think he's a really big one. And an upcoming guy to watch for the Royals. His first name is escaping me, but they started him in the minor leagues to start the season. But I was following his minor league stats, and he's had a great career. He has a ton of upside. McBroom I think is his last name.
Okay.
So he's a name that I'm definitely going to keep my eye on coming forward here. But
you know who I love on the Royals is Mondesi. I love the way he plays baseball. The shortstop. I think he'll leave this team and be converted into an outfielder because he just flat out flies. But he's one of those guys that he's on that superstar potential and hasn't really taken the leap up. If he does take that huge leap up this year, I can see the Royals being a player coming down the road here within the next year or two. And then I just made Anthony Hartwick's day. So, good job for me, just throwing love to everybody else.
Yeah, but I agree. As much as it pains me to say, being a big Tribe fan, I think the Royals have done a really good job of replenishing their farm system, although the Indians are doing a good job of building it back up too. But they just, over the years, they've had a lot more pitchers with a lot higher ceiling and potential than they had guys in the lineup. But I'm still not giving up on Bobby Bradley. If the Indians could give him a chance, he showed a lot of power when he first came up a couple years ago. I don't know if he'll ever be a superstar player, but he's a guy I think could be really good and make a couple all-star games. And Detroit has some really good young prospects too. So the Central Division as a whole, I think for a while it was considered a really weak division, but it's slowly becoming more and more competitive.
Coach, go ahead, Scott. Go ahead, Super Dave.
Go with Batiste as well because he has no regards for the unwritten rules of baseball, which I hate. So seems like I think that's going to bring the new fans in because
Yeah, I mean, I can appreciate some of the old traditions as an old school baseball guy. I kind of put myself as a hybrid, like I was raised by the old school and I'm part of the new class. So like I still have that respect for the old school rules, but there's other things that I'm like, that's ridiculous. Like, that's just stupid. You
got to have celebration in sports.
Love it. And that was something that, Bryce Harper talked about forever was, hey, we're going to make baseball fun again. And I just wish that he would hit better first. But yeah, I mean, there's so many exciting new players. I think for me, one of the best things about baseball is compared to the other sports is maybe outside of maybe football, where these kids 19 to 23 are making a huge impact on the league, not just for like maybe their team. Like the Pirates, it seems like they get 16-year-olds out there and they play, but every other team kind of gets those grown men where they're 19 to, 23, 24 coming out and playing pretty well, like a Tatis or Bryce Harper or even Trout coming out at 21 and was playing big time innings and big time spots for a team that had a lot of talent on that team. But, Coach, I mean, you got a player you like this year that could separate the gap between maybe basketball and baseball? Is that number 2 sport in America?
Yeah. So, right away, my heart is still broken over Francisco Lindor not being a Cleveland Indian anymore. But I do firmly believe that Francisco Lindor is the face of baseball right now. I mean, that just electric smile and that love of playing the game. And now in a New York market where you've got new ownership with the Mets who seem to be firmly committed to spending a whole bunch of money in order to make that team extremely fun to watch over the next few years, I think that you're going to see Lindor become even more of the face of baseball in the next couple of seasons here. And just to kind of tie in with the Indians, a little quick tribe update for you. They're now up 4-2 in the bottom of the 8th inning after two two-run home runs by Jose Ramirez.
Nice.
Why are they pitching to him? He's the only one who can hit. Why is he hitting 2 home runs in a game?
And a Jake Bauers update, he is still well below the Mendoza line at a batting average of 167.
That's why I don't understand why they should have started the year. And this is just my opinion. I'm not Tito Francona. I'm not a manager that's won 2 World Series, but I think they should have brought Bradley up to start the year. I just really don't see anything with Jake Bauers.
I couldn't agree with you more, Scotty, but unfortunately, this is where the service time and the contract side of baseball, which needs a complete revamping, in my opinion, comes into play. We've got to give an opportunity for these small market teams to retain some of these big name players. I think it's good for the game to have them spread out instead of constantly getting picked up by these big money market teams.
You know what? We can have this conversation another day, but I think what you just said actually helps the small market teams keep those guys with that arbitration all the way to 6 years. I mean, that's why you have to be careful of just bringing somebody up at 20, and then you got 6 years. You got 6 years in there to make that happen. So what in the world? I think Michael Myers is next door trying to kill somebody. I think they hope Bauer is a little better so they could trade him. Well, that could be.
I get why they brought him up because he didn't have any more options, and obviously Bobby Bradley did. So I get why they didn't want to give up on him and give him one more shot. But, he just, to me, he's flashed, average potential for the major leagues at best. Not saying anyone that makes it to the majors is good, but compared to other players. I think just Bradley, I think he has a lot higher ceiling. But real quickly, I was just wondering something I wanted to throw out to Coach Seidel, and then Billy Mack. I know you got to wrap it up here, but Coach Seidel, you were talking about how you think Francisco Lindor, even though he's with the Mets, you still see him as the face of baseball. But for his standards, he did have a little bit of a down year last year. I know it was a condensed 60-game season, but his numbers were still down. Do you consider him a top 5 player in the game right now?
That to me, and I think that's a really good question, Scotty. And I think that there's so much that goes into the debate about, who the top 5 players in the game are. And, when you think about it, you can break it down to, are we including pitchers in that category, even though they don't throw as often or they're not on the field as often? And, or are we just talking about positional players and everyday players? Even if we're just talking about positional players and everyday players, based on last year, I think that he may be just a bit outside of that conversation right now, if not right on the doorstep of that conversation. But I do think, like you said, last year was a little bit of an anomaly for him. And I could really see him making a push back into that top 5 this season with the Mets, so long as we get a full 162 in and, get to see some playoff baseball and some actual competitive games, late into the fall this year.
I'm going to protect Francisco Lindor here and basically say, yes, he is. Look at where he was at. And look who benefited from being pitched around. Ramirez had a great year last year. So, and he's hitting before, after. I mean, Reyes is kind of, he's up and down. He could potentially, and strength-wise, the sky's the limit for this dude. But when you're the best player on a team, you get a lot more hype, a lot more focus, and then it made other guys better. So especially in that lineup where Ramirez was hitting the ball better, Reyes had an okay year. So when other guys like that are getting the actual pitches, because you can't put 2 guys on. You can put 1 guy on, you can't put 2, right? You don't put guys in scoring positions. So that's kind of where I look at it. It's more it's not just the numbers. If we're talking just numbers, we can have that debate. But if you're talking just top 5 player, I think he's in that category. He's probably like on that 5th spot, maybe 6th there. So he's right on that edge. But to not have him he's the best shortstop in the game all the way around. I mean, there's better defenders, there's better hitters than him as a shortstop. But all around game, hands down, he's the best one. And I think the only best wise for shortstop is Trevor Story. He's the only one I think is better numbers and overall that you can at least have the debate with anyway. So let's cut it off there. Let's go to our G. Burbick Farms. What's your beef or filet? And let's start with Quinn because I haven't heard Quinn's voice in a minute. So
I got both. One of them is a beef and one of them is a filet. The first is a beef for talking about baseball for the past 20 minutes. That's why you don't hear my voice. It's a stupid thing.
Well, when you said we got to the show and you say, "Hey, Mac, you're hosting."
Never pass basketball for number 2 ever. Just so you know, let that sink in.
Well, we'll see the numbers. I'm pretty sure the World Series did a better job last year than the NBA Finals.
That's fine. Then why'd you say, will it ever pass number 2 basketball?
Some people have the argument. I'm just the host.
Okay.
What do I know?
That's fine. Beat Testa. That's fine. I don't care. You should worry more about hockey sneaking in on number 3 there.
Oh, that's tough. Okay.
Or NASCAR. You pick.
You had another one. What was it? A beef or filet?
Filet. A filet. It's good to be back. That's all. It's good to be back with you guys, and I'm happy to be back and no longer sitting with Billy Mack for hours on end.
Coach Seidel, go ahead. What's your beef filet?
Yeah, I'm going with the double filet today, and the first is just having you guys back finally. I know you guys, did a tremendous job with that headed home series, and it's good to not play the one-on-one game here on Power Hour again, and have you guys back into the mix. And then my second one is, man, hey, it's National Beer Day, and as a lover of beer, I just have to close the show out with one of my all-time favorites and bring the Great Lakes Christmas Ale, which interesting tie-in for the Great Lakes Christmas Ale. We've got good beard genes in my family, and my uncle is the official Santa Claus of Great Lakes Christmas Ale.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. Scotty, what's your beef? Filet.
I think I'm gonna go with the filet today, and my filet is just being able to check out all the baseball and softball coverage on YSN, and we've talked about some of the teams that have really built solid foundations and have really good programs. We talked about some teams that are like getting there or trying to get there. They're kind of in the middle of a uprising. So as Coach Seidel said earlier, just because we don't mention a team, it doesn't mean it's only because there's so much talent in the area. And then my other filet, it's got to be, I know it's not NFL season, it's not football season, but I just love all the moves that the Browns have made and general manager Andrew Berry has made. I know games aren't played on paper, but I think he's made the defense significantly better on paper, and I think they don't even have to be a top 10 as long as they could be middle of the pack, top 12, top 15 defense. With the offense the Browns have, I think the sky's the limit. So those are my two fillets, and I'm excited. I'm also going to the Tribe game on the 29th against the Twins, and it's the same night as the NFL draft, so I'm going to try to go to that too. So two things I'm stoked about. Those are my fillets for the day.
I have a shameless plug, if you don't mind. My fillet is
the
new YSN column, Goal Line Stance by Scotty Mincher and Super Dave O'Malley. It's wildly entertaining. You should check it out.
Yeah, you got to make sure you check that out. I mean, I always love the new stuff. And, hey, I've been plugging shameless stuff probably in the past 2 weeks. I've headed home. So I understand where you're coming from, and you should. And, well, it's that time again where I have a beef, and I've had such a crummy day. And I think my beef isn't with anyone in particular. It's just the idea of there's a lot of reasons why coaches don't coach anymore, and a lot of it has to do with just parents, guardians, just kind of getting not necessarily in the way, but doing too much, and doing too much. And that's kind of where I want to leave that at. And because it's going to keep me safe. So that's my beef. And parents, just take a deep breath and understand that as coaches, Coach Seidel will tell you, Quinn's a coach as well. A lot of this stuff we do because we love doing it. It's not because we're getting paid X amount of money or not paid or volunteer work. When you talk to some of these high school coaches in the area, they're getting paid pennies for the hours that they put in. So, it's not the end of the world there. So thank you so much for tuning in to YSN Live Power Hour today. And we'll be back tomorrow in some shape capacity. I'm sure DJ will probably be back. I know he doesn't like missing us. And remember, drink your beer today.
Drink responsibly.
So long.